to the channel, it's Mark, and this one is a bit different. It's not electrical based. It is a look through the garden renovation we've been working on at home and showing how we made our little play area, extended the patio and redid the back fence, all on a very limited budget. Cost well under £1,000 all in all, and we did all the labour obviously ourselves to keep those costs down. Around and give you a quick look at exactly what we have done. And if we zoom out a touch here, so we had this existing swing set and that's just been moved over to this corner. We've got all the play back down, the back fence has been redone, and that was just to kind of build it up a bit behind there because we keep some bits and pieces, provide a bit more shelter. Popped a little gate in, again homemade. The main part of all of this was this little kids play section here. So we've got the fort with the chalkboard and the steps up to it, some little ladybird lights in the top, and I think Isabel's popped her fairies door in the corner there. I'm sure that'll be getting moved around and added to. We've got the monkey bars as well, which did involve a bit of electrical work. They're made out of steel conduit, and thanks again to Craig O'Neill for providing the insight that at some stage drunk adults might try and have a go on these, and because of deflection and buckling it was well worth strengthening them. And I've gone for some M16 steel rod that's straight through the middle of all these now, and you know, that's reinforced it. It's solid as a rock. It's had my big fat ass trying to swing across them without any issues, so I'm sure that'll be fine for the long run. And we've also got this little section of patio here that was added, so it kind of finished on a diagonal up to the shed, across to there, and we've added on this section where the chairs are now, just to, you know, finish it off in front of the shed in full. But we'll jump to the time lapse. You can see exactly how we did it, and I'll talk you through the whole thing. So you'll see us starting to clear the former patio away. If you check the pictures at the start of the video, we had a corner patio in the back end of the garden. It was always in the shade, never really used, and we just ended up putting Isabel's playhouse on it in the end to keep her out of the muck and the mud. And fortunately it was very well constructed. It had a really thick and strong concrete base, and we managed to save all of the pavers ready to move over to the front of the shed. And you can see the whole family here digging in. Site manager Cooper, the dog, making sure we're all working safely and that full site PPE is in operation. You'll see he's a bit lax actually with some of that. And please remember, this is a DIY project at home. This isn't a professional job at all. We're not landscape gardeners or builders. We're just a family who wants to have a go at tidying up the garden a little bit. You see everyone getting stuck in. Little Isabel's having a bit of a go on the slide there, getting herself stuck. But yeah, this was quite solid hardcore, and I wanted to keep some of it to move over in front of the shed to kind of recycle it. No point wasting it and buying more hardcore to put over there. So we kept a little bit loose on the top so we could transfer it over, and you'll see us doing that later in the video. The bulk of it we did have to put in the skip out the front, and there was just too much of it. But yeah, you can see here now Laura's digging away the grass to clear out the front section of the shed, ready for putting the hardcore in for the base. She's a right trooper actually, and she shouldn't have been doing this. She decided in her own mind she was going to press on and start messing about with the garden, and there you go. She's a warrior. So she's barrowing away, clearing up all the soil, and trying to get us down to a good depth so we can get a nice level base of stone and hardcore in, ready to lay the patio on top of. And we had stones around the front of the shed as well, so we've had to clear those away, and we've repositioned them around the back of the shed because we store a bit of stuff behind there, and it was just made a nicer surface around the back of the shed. So we've tried to produce as little waste as possible. All the stuff we've selected to use, we've tried to avoid plastics and such, just try and keep it as eco-friendly as possible. And yeah, so you can see Laura here, she's just about got there actually, taking away all of the soil and just get us to a level. So the garden's really uneven, and we're actually quite deep off the patio there, but as we reach kind of the grass, it's not that much of a drop at the edge of the grass, but it is the same depth all the way across, so there was always going to be a little bit of a step up as we finish this. And that's me. I've just got back from work and I'm clearing away some of the concrete from the existing patio of the house, because obviously it was on a sloped edge and we need to be getting our depth of hardcore in, so I've had to clear that away. I've got Nathan out there helping me now with the looks of it. That's about the fastest he's moved in several months. So he's a bit of a trooper there, filling up the barrow with a hardcore, moving it across, and you can see me spreading it, so I'm kind of trying to just make sure we get a good coverage and then a nice depth And we didn't have a whacker plate to give it a good whack down, but we've been over it with the pavers and lots of jumping and other inventive ways of trying to compress it. I mean, the existing patio that's in front of the shed is very, very uneven anyway. It's not been installed in the best way, so we didn't have a great surface to work from, if you like. So that's Jack and his comedy effect icon there, and that's what we got out of the old patio into the skip. So that was all hand barrowed, and you can see here with the finished ground level, so you can see some of the hardcores still in the topsoil surface. Even having said we've scraped out most of it, we did give it a good scrape off and clean away before we'd finished. And there you can see the drop in the level at the patio is actually quite a nice space to get the hardcore into, and then we're going to hand mix later on to lay the new patio, well I say new, recycle the old patio onto, and you can see we've got the slabs there ready in order to go. That's the little Isabel enjoying having a picture taken for a change. Yeah, so it was quite a lot of material we did remove from, I didn't think there would be that much, and Laura had in her mind she was going to take it all to the tip in the back of the car, but I think after the first load she'd barrowed away, that soon became apparent it wasn't going to quite work. So you can see there's the hardcore base that we've got in there, and yeah, so now we're getting on. This was the main thrust of efforts, and Jack's getting involved now because he's heard mention of monkey bars. So you can see he's there with a shovel and he wants us getting on with it and getting this job finished quick as poss, because he's got some monkeying around to be doing. And this is Matthew just helping me out, utilising his 6'6" frame before he disappeared for the day, just getting these posts up. So we set them first, so this is before we get any of the postcrete in. We've just levelled them all up, got them secured with timber onto the shed and against each other, so they're pretty rigid, square and straight. That's the really important bit, so make sure you get your spirit levels on there to get your levels right, because once they're set with the concrete, you're not very readily easily available to move them. You can see there they're already itching to get going. This is before I've even cemented them in, they're already climbing on them. So you know, you're fighting against the clock with little people running around who've heard all these rumours of a park going in the garden. But yeah, that's the rapid set concrete gone in, and you roughly fill the whole a third with water, pour your concrete in, give it a stab about and mix around, get some more water in there, and again just aggravate it with a shovel or a stake and get it all mixed together. It goes off really quick. And you can see here we decide to put the swing in this position, and this is a deliberate mistake. We just wanted to practice, and you'll see why a bit later on in the video. But again, simple mix of postcrete, and with this one I've mixed it up in the barrow to pour in, because it was just a little bit easier with not knowing the exact quantities for each hole. And yeah, that's bed that in quite nicely. And now we're going to get on with doing the actual bars themselves, I think. And for this we're using electrical conduit, and I spaced the bars about 400mm apart, I think I went for in the end. And the idea with that was that Isabel's only got short arms and it gives her a good chance of reaching them, and if Jack wants a challenge he can miss a bar out and stretch his arms. You can see I originally put them through with just normal conduit, so the wasn't reinforced at all. So this is hollow heavy gauge conduit. We're just cutting these to length here with a bandsaw, so using the Bosch bandsaw from work, and yeah, getting those all in and set. Just put some caps over the end. So the way I did this is obviously drilled all the way through one of the supporting beams across to the shed, and the other one we just kind of half drilled through, so the conduit pushes in at the other side, and then there's a cap on the end on the side you can't see to just hold it into place. And you can see here we're just clearing away some of the old bricks because we've realised they're in the way of where we need to be working, so we've got rid of those ones. Little reset of the camera, and a site meeting there with Laura probably telling me how I was doing it all wrong. And yeah, now we're just getting the weed net down, and this is to stop anything growing back through. Gave it all a treatment to make sure that everything's kind of killed off. We didn't want to dig it out any further because we'd have had to put something back in because of the levels we were using. So it was a case of just kill off what's there and then cover it over. And you can see we're just trying to weight it down with some of the old blocks and bricks, and then that's me just shortening the gate off that I'd already made. So the gate was just part of the fence. I've just cut it in between two fence posts, and that's just so we can get out there for maintenance on the other side of the fence that you'll see us working on in a little bit. And a latch and a lock because Isabel would be deciding to let Cooper out. I am absolutely positive of that, so we've got to lock them in. that was me briefly testing the monkey bars and Jack giving them a test out. Isabel coming to have a go. And yeah, that was pretty much that stage done for the day, I think. I don't think we got much else done that day. So it was all secured to the shed, monkey bars up, and ready to go. And it was kind of later on that evening we decided that we might go a bit further with it. It was going pretty well. We had the brainwave of making a little fort perhaps, and putting the existing slide you can see there onto it. You know, this is a view from ground level, so this is what it would look like at this stage. And at this point in time we were just going to leave it like that, so we were going to put Isabel's little playhouse in the back corner and have done with it. But then I got a bit carried away later that evening and decided I would have a go at making them a fort. And you can see here they're inspecting the site, deciding if it is a good idea or not. And yeah, then we get started. And this is the day I actually persuaded Matthew to stay and give up his Sunday. So he very kindly donated a day of his life on a weekend to help build his little brother and sister a play fort. Probably moaning all the way through that he never got one of these when he was their age. But you can see as there, that's another similar size fence post, so the 4x4 fence posts all the way through on all of these for the monkey bars and these posts that we're going in now. And the idea is with these is to kind of secure them off the monkey bar frame, so you can see one's propped underneath to provide a bit of rigidity on the monkey bars, and we fix it into the ground with the postcrete again, fix it onto this other post here at the other side, and then kind of link it all over onto the shed again. And it's a really, really rigid frame actually, so the shed's a very strong construction. It was built by professionals, not by us, and yeah, we get a nice solid fixing onto the shed, and then the posts in the ground the same. And there is a bit of a fall off the back there, so the intention was to do a bit of a lean-to roof, so the back is slightly lower than the front, so when it rains the water should run away slightly to the back. I mean, it's not a weatherproof building anyway, there's great big open sides to it as you'll see later on, but the idea was to let the water run off the back at least and not be sat dripping through what we put on top. So you can see here with the postcrete, and again we're third fill in the holes, pop the postcrete in and give it an aggravation, get some more water in and mix it all up, and it goes off within 20-25 minutes, and it's gone nice and hard. So you can see here we're just giving it a bit of time to set before we carry on, and that was me again seeing how much stronger the monkey bars had got from adding a little bit of extra framework. You can see here we're putting the 3x2s across. We went probably bigger than we needed to with the timbers, to be honest, but it's just easier to work with, and the cost difference on smaller timbers is negligible. So again, we put these up onto the top of the rear support and screwed straight into the front of the monkey bar frame with the old 3x2s. And yeah, nice and strong. Make sure you get the straightest timbers you can across there. You don't want some of them humped up. Sometimes your stud framing timbers aren't the straightest, so make sure you're getting some nice straight ones. And then we pop the featherboard on top. So this is just standard featherboard you'd put on a fence, and make sure you get it running the right way so when that water runs onto it, it can flow off of it, and go for a strong overlap. So you can just overlap it ever so slightly, but you're more likely to get water leaking through it. So if you've got the timber there, give it a good overlap, so you've got less likelihood of any water running through. I mean, as I say, this isn't a watertight building, but you know, it helps while we're on with it. We might as well do the best job we can with it. And that was a really strong roof structure. And again with the 3x2s, don't lay them flat, so lay them with the fat side, if you like, horizontal, if that makes sense. So as you're looking at it, the 3 inches is pointing up to the sky, and you know, you get more rigidity in the roof support there. I was just putting a bit of featherboard on just to dress the edges in. So Matthew's kindly cut off the featherboard for a nice straight finish, and again we're utilising his massive frame to reach the top of this without the steps. So now we're working on putting the floor in for the fort, and again we based this on Isabel's height, so we tried to make it so when she's in the top section of the fort she can easily stand up, and so can Jack to a point without constantly banging his head, but there is room for him to crawl underneath and play with the other bits and pieces that are going to be under there. It was a bit of a in two minds of quite where to go with this, but it actually worked out quite well that by pure chance it sat at just the right height for the slide. I'd like to say that was planned in the design, but it just kind of felt like that. It was a bit of luck. And Matthew's just cutting the timbers here, and again we're screwing him into the front frame and sitting them on a support on the shed, and they're nice and secure. Again, 3x2s, and there's more of them than we need. It's only 1100 by 1100, I think, this platform, so it's not the biggest structure, but we've got supports going across every 250mm, just because really we had the timber there to play with. And this is outdoor pressure treated timber, and again on the floor these are hard wearing outdoor floorboards. It's not just standard interior stuff, and you can see there we've gone all the way across the base. Matthew's just cutting the final strip there with the circular saw that we can drop in the back, and I've started on the feather boards. So this was kind of just running with what we had and seeing where it took us. There was no real set plan at this stage. Wasn't quite sure how we were going to finish it, but just ran with it and see what happened. Matthew's getting us our levels across for the rest of the frame there, you can see. So we've got the top bar there. We just started playing around with this slide here to see quite where it's sat in relation to the platform, and yeah, we've got it ready there to get that sorted out. Matthew's making the opening, make sure that it's wide enough, and yeah, get that screwed into position. It's now chopped up the final rail for the other side where we're going to put the ladders as well. So we're just getting our levels across there, making sure we've got everything in the right position. And you can see there that Matthew's now starting on the frame at that side, and I'm just featherboarding the front, and yeah, making sure that's nice and covered, and then saw away the rail at the top of the slide so the kids can get through and use it, and just reinforcing that with an extra batten in the back there. And now the handrails that we're putting on the top and bottom, and this was just a moment of inspiration. Wasn't part of the plan, but it actually finished it really nicely, and you'll see when we get some of the footage down at ground level that it looks pretty decent, I think. So that was a nice way to finish it. It's working on the back side now, where we've got the steps that would run up into the little fort. So you can see us here putting the handrails on. Matthew's just finishing off the opening for the ladders, and you know, we're about there now. The fort's largely constructed, and yeah, I think we're just working on the ladders on the back of the shed, and again you'll see some of the footage for that as we drop down to ground level in a short while. Matthew's the saw master, so he's really sharp with the measurements there. He's used to it in his day job, so we're getting everything. There was hardly any waste on the stuff we'd bought, and I'll run through that at the end of the video, showing you exactly what it cost and where we spent the bulk of the money. And yeah, getting these cuts right. So I think we had about a length of timber left and a length of featherboard, and that was about it. We used all of the gravel board on the back fence that you'll see in a short minute. But here we are now, we're just getting the ladders sorted, and this is where we start to tackle the slide and getting it attached. So obviously it was on that frame. We was considering taking the top part of the frame off to screw to the fort, but I think it looks nicer if we keep it all as timber. So we got a bit inventive with some side battens that we screwed through. So we used the existing nuts and bolts that were attaching the slide to that metal frame, and we made some angled timbers that we attached onto the fort / castle cabin, whatever we're calling it, and that secured it onto the fort. It's really solid fixing, and it's going absolutely nowhere. So you can see there the kids have just got back and they're wanting to get straight on with it again, so Jack's messing about with the old frame, just getting the back featherboard on to cover away the timbers. And Cooper's done to do his site inspections. Jack's giving the slide a trial run, and yeah, I think we're just dressing up the final sharp edges and corners there. We're about finished, and yeah, that wasn't too bad. Oh yeah, we've got the bottom section to do that I forgot about. And we was going to do a sand pit down here, but we changed our minds just because we didn't want to end up with sand absolutely everywhere in the house and all over the garden. We decided to go with some astroturf. But here we've got the frame at the bottom gone in, and that's just gravel board. This is where we had a bit of an idea of strengthening the monkey bars, because the adults had been having a go and there was a bit of flex in there. I designed it for children, not adults, but I forgot I live in a house full of adult-sized children, so we was going to do that, but Laura said it looked rubbish and to take them timbers off, so they went straight away. And you can see that's me just having a bit of a clear up, and Cooper having an inspection of his garden, wondering where all his grass has gone. He's not been too impressed with these developments, but you know, he's going to have to learn to live with it. And this is the mistake I spoke about earlier. So we'd put the swing in the wrong place in relation to the slide. There was a high probability a child would come down that slide and straight into the swing frame. And whilst mine getting repaired at hospital wouldn't be a terrible shame for me. The neighbours' kids doing the same would be slightly embarrassing, so we've had to move it into a safer position where it's less likely to cause an injury and give them a bit of space at the bottom of the slide. So Matthew was really chuffed to do a bit more digging at the end of this day. And you can see here again, we've gone round with a postcrete and the hose pipe and making sure we get that set in nice and firm. Cover it back over with the weed mat, and I think that's about us done for the day on this one. So you can see Isabel up there giving her play fort a thorough inspection. Yeah, she was considering jumping out onto the monkey bars just then. Good job she changed her mind. So yeah, that's about the end of that one, I think. Jack's coming to have a little go there. He seems quite pleased with things. So that's the hard battle when Jackie's 9 and Isabel's 4. It's finding something that they can both use whilst it's not too big for one and too small for the other. I think we've got it about right on this. So that's me getting some footage for this video and helping Izzy out with using the monkey bars. And again, just about there on this one. I think we drop down to ground level in a second. We can have a little look through what's actually been done. The next stage now, this is me putting the bolts through, so pre-drilling them and then just making sure these corners are bolted in nice and tight, and again onto the shed as well, so there's absolutely no possibility of any of that pulling apart just with screws in. The laurels were going, and this is because the last 2 or 3 days of working on there I got absolutely shredded by mosquitoes or some death insect that was living in those bushes. I don't know what the hell they were, but I know it hurt and itches a lot. And again, just getting rid of some of the overhanging branches on the garden at the back before we pop the fence up. So just clearing out there. Some of them we couldn't reach. You know, the trees do overgrow the garden quite a bit. But yeah, just clearing out there. So getting rid of the barbed wire, not chicken wire, off the back of the fence. You know, Cooper's really good. He never really tries to leave the garden, but he does like having a nosy out through that back fence. There's a number of pheasants and squirrels and other animals that go wandering past, and he likes to keep a close eye on what they're up to. Sheep in the backfield as well, and we're ruining his day with this. He doesn't quite know what's coming yet, but you can see he's already like, what's going on. That's my pea bush that's gone, and I'm not quite happy with what he looks like you're getting on with my fence. Where am I going to see through it? So Matthew again on the saw, chopping us some lengths, and we set these to 1.2 metres. Just because the gravel board's 2.4 metres long, so we can get no waste, everything gets used, and it gives a nice finish along the back there, so the kids can see out from their little tower into the back there, and if they decide to go over the other side of the fence, we can see them and retrieve them before they get into any more trouble than they should have done. And we go a little bit out of sight here behind the fort, but we kind of bring the fence up on an angle to the full. So I got some other gravel board that was 1.8 metres long to run along the back of the fence, so that we kind of step up from 1.2 to the 1.8 on a diagonal. And again, when we drop down to ground level, you'll see that, and that's Matthew just cutting them by hand with a circular saw, just to give us a nice finish across the top there as we work away. So Laura's popped out to help us screw the fence to the existing rails. She made a cracking job of it actually. She did that good of a job. We decided we need to redo the existing grey bits of fencing. You can see we was just going to draw a line across and trim them to the same level, but we had to take them all off in the end and remove the chicken wire that was trapped behind it and get it sat flush, just so it looked nice all the way along. So you can see here that I go out of sight behind the shed, but basically just carrying on with a fence all the way across whilst Matthew gets on with sorting out this old grey fencing here. So he's taking it all off so we can get rid of the chicken wire and other bits and pieces that were trapped behind it, so we can sit it flush to the rails. And while he's got them off, he was as well to cut them to the right length, so he's done that anyway with the chop saw. You can see him there just cleaning off the rest of the muck from there, where I'm round the back of the shed just sorting out the last bits of fencing to the end, and the shed's 5-6 metres long, so there's quite a bit of fencing to do around there. And again, I stepped it down at the other side of the shed just so we can see through. So this is Matthew cutting these to length, and I think I interrupt him here and there to cut me some timbers to length as well. He's a demon on the saw, and it saves me getting involved with my bad eyesight at close quarters. So there, he's cutting me a couple of lengths. This is for the drop downs at the other side of the shed, where we revert back to the 1.2 metres, just so we can see through into the field at the other side of the shed as well. That's me getting rid of the chicken wire off the back of there, and now he's passed me over some 3x2s again, just to strengthen the shed, the fence where we've raised it up. So obviously the posts, they only go to about 1.2 metres, and we've popped the shed height, the fence height up a little bit, so we needed to reinforce it with some timber, and I've joined it onto the little lean-to that we've got at the back of the shed, so it's got rigidity between the top of the fence onto the existing shed, so it's not wobbling and wafting about anywhere. You know, it's pretty firm and well secured, and you'll see that when we drop down to ground level in a minute. So yeah, we're about there now. Matthew's reattaching the old fencing, and we've just about got the other side done, so we're not far off finished again for this day. And again, we did this just in an afternoon after work. It didn't take too long. I think we were 2 or 3 hours messing about, just getting this little bit sorted after we'd finished work for the day. You can see there, Matthew's nearly got us done. I think I'm about finished round the back of the fence. And yeah, we'll just have a bit of a clear up, check our levels. I'm going to just ping a line across the top of this gate, and that's Matthew just sawing away there to bring it to the same finished level. So you can see we're about done there now. I think we're getting towards the clearing up stage. Laura's come out to do her inspection and see how straight the fence is, and yeah, just bringing everything back through. So it was a job well done. It actually turned out really nice. We were very happy with it. It's finished the back of the garden off a lot better than the laurel bushes looked anyway. It wasn't part of the original plan. It was just because I got fed up of getting bit by insects and held the bush responsible. But as it's turned out, it looks a lot better. So you can see here, that's the fence around the back of the shed, and that's what I'm on about, joining it onto that little lean-to, so that's really rigid. And we've got some battens across there as well. And whilst we had the opportunity, we gave it a good paint up. So we had some of the paint left, gone all the way along to match it in, give it a bit of protection as well. And yeah, this is us getting set up now for this was the big delivery day where we had all the sand turned up. So we had 3 dumpy bags of sand, and we used MKM for the sand actually, and some cement as well for the patio. And you can see the diagonal I was on about at the start of the video, so we've kind of taken that off so we can square those corners up. But to start with, we had to barrow the sand round to sit on top of the weed membrane. So we barrowed a few round till the bags were light enough to drag through, and you can see me just spreading it across here. So we need a nice depth. We wanted to get a nice solid level base so we can put the finished surface on top of it afterwards. And I think at that stage we hadn't quite decided what we were going to use. Can't remember exactly, but yeah, we're spreading that out there now, and you can see we've got the sleepers as well that have been brought through. And this video actually gets cut short because I forgot to put my phone on charge whilst the hyperlapse was set up, so it doesn't capture all the footage, but it gets most of it. You can see here, that's the second bag just been brought through that's finished off most of the sand actually. And then we decided to bring the third bag through so we can use it for mixing, and just poured it along the front, and any of what was left we could add into the base of the play area. So you can see me and Matthew getting ready, psyching ourselves up here for the patio laying. And this was the part I wasn't really looking forward to, because the patio that's round the back of the house is really level and well laid, but this little section in front of the shed I think somebody's added on at some stage in the past, and really to have done it properly I should have lifted it all and relaid the entire thing. But with everything else that was going on, I just couldn't be bothered, so we decided to run with what we'd got. But it's kind of up and down everywhere, so you know, if you put your new patio into a level, there's going to be kind of a trip hazard between what you're putting in and what's already there. So we made the decision to kind of follow what was there and try and level it out as we moved away towards the grass. And to be honest, we largely did that. It turned out pretty good. And again, apologies for the reflection through the window. It was a bright sunny day, so it was a bit of a difficult one. But you can see Izzy's Peppa Pig bedding, I think, there. So this is where we've got all of the materials through. Cooper's doing his site inspections again. Probably a bit upset he can't see through the back fence anymore. And this is Matthew just taking off the bottom rail of the shed's cladding, and that was so we could get the patio slabs right up to it, the same as at the other side of the shed, so it all matched in. And these were very, very well nailed on, so we had a bit of a challenge getting them off, but we got them off in the end. So that's me with my Tough Built knee pads. So they're really, really solid, decent knee pads, and they're quite comfortable to wear all day. So that's why I went for those. You've got to look after your knees when you're old like me. And yeah, you can see us there just kind of plotting out what we're doing. Matthew's getting a mix on in the barrow. So we was considering getting a cement mixer, but for the little section we had, it didn't seem worth it. And yeah, we've gone for a 4:1 ratio on that. So I know some people just put sand base out and put the slabs straight on top. But we wanted to set them in because that's how the rest of the patio is done, and it's just a bit easier for amateurs to work like that. I think it gives you a bit more forgiveness in the laying off the surface, especially when you're working off something that isn't level already. And we had a bit of a struggle at the start trying to get them to actually fit in, so I was trying to avoid cutting them because the existing patio is not cut, but it was obviously you're working with a space that's already there. And it was a bit of a struggle just trying to get away from this first corner. Once we got out of there, we were laughing. But again, getting a nice thick bed in there. Make sure you get it reasonably levelled off, and then lay your slabs on and give them a nice tap with a mallet. And you can see I've got the spirit level there just to try and level it out as we're working away from that corner. I think we had a few changes in design by Laura of what slabs she wanted in what direction, and that's just us messing about a little bit there because of that. And you can see we're just kind of getting away from that corner as we move along. You can see we're utilising the spade there. I think this was the part where we were just having a bit of trouble getting the slabs to fit between the shed and the existing patio, and we might have ended up cutting one of these down in the end, I think, from memory, just to take a slither off because that was the difference we had. And again, using the appropriate PPE for the task at hand. But bear in mind, this is a home job, but Matthew's masked and gloved up. You see he's got his ear defenders there as well. And yeah, we're going to get that slab in there now. So you see, I think this was just about the section where we'd about made it away from the tricky spot. We spent a bit of time on this, but I thought it was best to get it right than to have to start again right from the other side. I think Matthew's patience was wearing a little bit thin at this stage, but yeah, we got there in the end. We're not ground workers and patio layers by any stretch, but I'm pretty pleased with the end result. So you see here again, we're going to mix a bit of a freshen up because it had been sat there a while. Get the slabs in, get them levelled in a way as best you can. And you can see we're about away from that little section. Final little stubborn bit. And I think we're in. Yeah, checking the levels. And then away we went. So we kind of, once we got that little bit sussed, we were laughing because we had a softer edge to work with from that point. And we could get away with a bit more. So you can see Matthew tipping the mix in there, and again setting it to a nice bed level. So you want a reasonably thick level there. Again, trying to keep Cooper out of the muck. We managed to keep the kids out of the garden, but the dog was more of a challenge because he was very interested in what we were actually doing. Bless him, he does like to get involved in stuff. As you can see, we've got that one cut down as well, and then we're working away from that back corner, trying to remember not to stand on it for the bits you've done. See that again, that's trying to keep some sort of a level with it, but whilst not having a trip hazard. And we finished the edge with the brick sets, and it just was a nicer way to finish into the grass than the pavers themselves. And that's what's at the other side of the patio as well, is the brick set. so I thought it matched in quite well. At this stage, Laura was wanting to keep her washing line in the middle of the patio, but I think as we were going along she decided she wanted rid of it, so I'm pretty sure we pulled that out and pave over it. Well, I know we paved over it, so hopefully she doesn't want to use it anymore. You can see Matthew again with his full face respirator on and his eye protection and ear protection. You can see away we go here. So I will say actually we used a stone cutting blade on the Bosch angle grinder, so it'll take a 125mm disc on that grinder. It's about at its limit at the size of pavers we were cutting. You know, really a still saw would have been easier, but again we had the grinders to hand for work, and the regular 115mm cutting discs probably wouldn't have been quite enough, but that grinder will take a 125, so that helped us out a bit there. And again with the Bosch Procore batteries, you know, it's quite a torquey angle grinder, that thing. So you can see us here. I think the footage is about to lose us actually, and again further on from this we went on to install the sleepers and level the remaining bits of sand off. We've nearly finished this bit of patio here. We've got like 2 or 3 slabs left to lay and we're all but done. But yeah, I'd forgot to put the phone on charge, so we're going to lose the footage very shortly. You can see here Laura just making her final pattern designs to make sure we're putting the slabs in the orientation she wants. Matthew just grinding the last little bits up. And yeah, we're about there. Oh, just a point of note, if anyone's noticed, we have got some lights dangling across between the shed and the house, and they're on cantenary wires. They're just relics from Christmas that we've left up a bit too long, so they need to come down. You can see there we've got the sleepers in there and the sand down, and it's just to a level for the time being. See, that's the patio, and you'll see there the existing one isn't in the best nick, but we've kind of matched it in as best we can. And to be honest, you'd never know we've added that on. It looks original to the rest of the patio, so I think it turned out pretty good, and it certainly gives us more space on there for the chairs and stuff. That was the idea. So this is the final little bit. So by now the sand's been well tamped down. We've given it a good wallop over a number of days, getting it squashed nice and firm and level. And we went for a kids play bark, and we talked about maybe plastic chip-ins and all sorts of other things, but this was what we'd settled on the most because we thought it wasn't too hard or sharp for the kids. It wasn't going to cause any damage to the local wildlife and our own pets, and it's reasonably clean, so when the kids are playing in it the clothes aren't going to get blathered. So you have to go for the specific kids play bark and not just bark chip-ins. And again we got 2 dumpy bags of these, which for the area we were covering was supposed to be more than enough, but as it turned out it was just about the right amount, to be honest. We wouldn't have wanted any less. And again, that's the big kids getting inventive with dragging it round rather than wheelbarrowing it round because they're lazy. And yeah, laziness finds the solution to all of the difficult problems. You can see we're giving it a good spread out. It came pretty wet, as you would expect, and it's now actually dried out into a much lighter shade. And yeah, you can see Isabel giving her swing a good test. Decided while it was just drying out to stick the leftover sheets of AstroTurf down under the slide and the swing, just so they're not getting themselves wet. And yeah, that's the sleeper locked in. Again, we bedded that in with some sand and cement, and it's 3 different cuts of sleeper, and we've screwed them together with threaded rod and screws, so they're nice and secure. And again, just having a little look over the back fence because Jack did a bit of a clear out over there, just a bit of a tidy up. And that's Isabel doing her best impression of using the swing like a Wally. Cooper again, he's really not happy. He's lost all his grass, he can't see out into the wilderness anymore, and the kids have taken over his garden. So this is just temporarily, we're reseeding the grass. Obviously it's been ruined through the course of all this work. It wasn't in the best condition anyway, and Isabel wanted to lend a hand. So we're giving it a good fine rake. I've spreaded out 3 bags of topsoil and some sand amongst it, got it to a level and chucked a bit of seed on, and we'll see what happens. I suspect as summer moves towards us, it might end up getting re-turfed or even some AstroTurf. But just for now, we thought we'd give it a try because we're trying to keep costs down. So you can see here Isabel having a good old play on the swing, and because we've raised the level of the ground up, I had to adjust the height of a swing so it was the right height for her, but she was very, very happy with that result. In a minute we'll drop down to ground level and you can have a good look around. So yeah, that was about it really, start to finish all the way through. We did it over the course of a week or two. I didn't really spend that much time on actually doing the work. It took less time than I thought it would. It was just done in and around work and the odd day on a weekend, I think. So you can see that's the fence all painted up, and there's Isabel having a nosy over it. Again, the monkey bars, and we stuck some M16 threaded rod through that, as I spoke about at the start of the video, and that was after Craig O'Neill made a very valid point that my adult-sized children might have a few beers on a weekend and give it a go. So that's the slide, which the kids are very happy with, and the little base up there. And again, I don't think we'd got I know we had got the chalkboard in at this stage, so the AstroTurf and chalkboard are in, and that was just a £10 strip of AstroTurf from B&M, just a clean surface for them to sit on and play on under there. So that's the idea, that Isabel will spend a bit of time under there in the summer, we think. There's the ladders that we knocked together. And yeah, just quite a basic construction set. So again, the 4x4 fence posts, postcrete into the ground, linked across to the shed, some nice big sleepers to separate the play area from the rest of the garden and keep the bark in. Some electrical conduit. You could use scaffold bars, you could use anything of some reasonable rigidity to it across the two spaces. What I will say is don't rely on screws. If you're doing stuff like that, it needs to be bolted together or locked in place so it can't come out. And yeah, that was about that complete. Now I'll run through some of the materials we used and what it all cost at the end of this video, so just hang fire if you want to see that, and we can run through it. So yeah, if you have a look at this list here, so the project costs, we had the rear fence, and obviously that'll be subject to your length of fence. This was about 11 metres wide, 12 metres wide, and it was a couple of £100. It was just gravel board that we've used. It's the same as the rest of the fence all around the house, front and back, so it made sense to match it in. The play fort itself was £150, so that's the fence posts, the timber we used to construct the frame, and then the cladding, and the ladders and the gravel boards at the bottom. And then the monkey bars were £100, so that was just some fence posts and the steel heavy gauge conduit, which we have because we're electricians, but I have applied a cost to that in that figure. The sleepers were £120, and again you can get some much grander solid oak sleepers, but knowing that the dog and the kids were going to be trampling all over it, we didn't go nuts on those. It was just to keep the bark in place and look reasonably nice, and we're actually quite happy with those. And again, they were from MKM, they look pretty decent. The play bark was a considerable investment at £200. I'm sure it can be obtained for less than that, but this was washed and cleaned and suitable for use by children, so we was wanting to make sure we got the right product for them to play in, so that was a primary concern. And yeah, we didn't want to go with any of the plastic little bits and pieces just because of the dog and the fact we have squirrels and pheasants and whatnot else jumping in the garden. We thought it might be a hazard to them, so we didn't go with that in the end. We didn't want the sand because it would end up all over the house and the garden at some stage, and the local cats would use it as a litter tray. It didn't make any sense to do that, so we decided to go with a play bark. Might even put some AstroTurf on there in the future because we've still got that nice firm level sand base underneath, so if ever we wanted to, we could. Paint was £20. AstroTurf, as I said, was a tenner, and sand and cement that we got for the whole thing, so that was for underneath the little patio area that, roughly speaking, was about 1 by 2 metres ish. That was £120, and the total cost for the whole thing was £920, which I think for everything we've done with a back fence and the play area, it is a bit of a bargain. And the reason I've itemised it like that is you probably might not have a fence you need to do, or a patio you need to relay. So if you were just doing the kids' little play fort, for example, £150, and then whatever you want underneath it, it's not a lot of money when you see these things retailing for around £1,000 or so, with a slide and some monkey bars and stuff on. So you can, if you're wanting to save some money and you've got the DIY skills yourself, you know, it's easily doable. I think me and Matthew knocked that up in an afternoon, so it doesn't take the greatest amount of time. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching the video, and I'm going to stop waffling on now, and I will let you see some final pictures of what we did. Drop your comments in below if you have any questions, you want to know some more about the materials we used. Just drop a comment below and I will get back to you. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe to the channel. Catch you later.